Hello, and welcome to the new series of Hangouts on Air for the Computer Science for High School program in EMEA. My name is Claire Conneely. I'm the program manager for the CS4HS awards program in EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I'm thrilled to be hosting this new series of Hangouts on Air for the 2016 program. Welcome to those of you who are joining us live today, and thanks to anyone who's watching the recording. I hope you'll find the next 30 minutes or so informative and helpful in writing your application for the 2016 awards. To anyone who's joining us live, feel free to post your questions at any time over the next 30 minutes, and I'll try and answer as many of them as I can throughout the session. So what are we going to cover today? In the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to talk a little bit initially about Google in CS education, what we do and why we do it. Then I'll give you a bit of an overview of the CS4HS program, especially for those who are new to the program and may not have applied before. Finally, then, we're going to focus in on the proposal, what it is that you're going to be asked in the application form. And I'm going to call out 3 key areas that we'd like you to focus on in answering your questions. And as I said, plenty of time for your questions, so feel free to post them as we go through at any time if something occurs to you. So, Google in computer science education. What is it that we do and why do we do it? Well, our mission in computer science education is to help students, educators and parents across the world engage with computer science through various resources, programs and funding. And our CS4HS grant is one of those funding streams. Our focus is on expanding the pool of future technologists and equipping students with the technical skills that we know they're going to need for their future work and life in the 21st century, no matter whether they end up at Google or not. We're also really focused on advancing teaching and learning and research in computer science education. We know that early exposure is key. We know that familiarity with any subject can generate a young person's interest and curiosity from a very young age. And so this is our main focus for many of our resources, programs, and funding in pre-university computer science education. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the range of programs and resources that we offer, feel free to click on the link at the end of the first slide there, g.co/CS-edu, to find out more and see what we offer on a global scale. I should also point out at this stage that we're going to share the slides afterwards along with the video of the Hangout on Air, so that you can take a little more time to go through the content of the slides if you want. So what exactly do we mean by computer science when we say computer science? What is computer science? The best way that I can describe computer science to you is that it's all about creating, not consuming technology. It's about giving students the skills to be able to create their own content and to really get to understand how computers work. So it's not learning how to type, it's not sitting and playing a video game, but it's giving students the chance to develop the skills to create and build their own games. It's also a discipline that we know to encourage persistence in problem solving, which is a really important 21st century skill. So it's a great skill for a young person to learn as they go through school. As I mentioned already, we're also really focused on research, and we've produced a number of publications in the last couple of years focused on key issues current in computer science education. In May 2014, we published a report to explore some of the key factors that affect women who choose computer science at undergraduate level and how these impact on their decisions for career choices. And there are some very interesting findings that come out of that report. More recently, just last year, we produced a further 2 reports, one focusing on images of CS, so exploring the perceptions of teachers, students, and parents about computer science. And the second one of those reports from last year was called Searching for CS, and that explored some of the access and barriers to computer science education that exist in K-12 education in the US. Now, I'm mentioning these reports and although they are US focused, I do think that a lot of what is in the reports will resonate with many of you across Europe, Middle East and Africa. And I think you'll identify with some of the key issues that have come out of them. So they are worth a read, and the link is at the bottom of the page there if you want to download any of them and look at them further. Out of the 2 reports that were published last year, we've also published a set of recommendations to educators and parents who are interested in tackling some of the issues that persist around computer science education. Just to glance at some of these recommendations, because these are what have shaped our thinking around the CS4HS grant this year, so they're worth mentioning. First of all, we recommend that you have to broaden the access to computer technology to young people by offering a variety of paths in and out of school through a variety of technology. So to really engage with young people where they're at with their interests. And related to that is the second recommendation, which looks at making computer science accessible and engaging for all students, teachers, and subjects. And it's especially critical to stay aware of the biases that exist. Many of them are unconscious biases when we're designing programs that are engaging and accessible for all. We want to continue to provide teachers with resources for learning about and teaching computer science, and making sure that these are high quality resources and relevant to what teachers need in their local context. And also investing in communities to sustain computer science education at a high quality for everybody. And finally, one of the key recommendations from this research is that we need to continue to work with the school community to increase awareness, to ask school boards and school districts to prioritize computer science as much as possible, so that together we can make a difference and change some of these barriers and perceptions that still prevail around computer science education. So moving on to the CS4HS grant then. So, as many of you will know, but for those of you who are new to the program and may not have applied before, CS4HS is a global program. We provide funding to universities, colleges and other third-level institutes and non-profit organisations who are dedicated to creating and delivering teacher professional development in computer science education. And our ultimate goal in doing that and providing these grants is to improve the overall landscape of the CS education landscape, and ensure that there's a thriving community of teachers who can work together to engage their students in the awe and beauty of computing. The objectives with the CS4HS grant are, first of all, to partner with the best education and non-profit communities to provide high quality and relevant professional development in computer science for teachers. We also want to work hard to promote the use of scalable technologies so that we can increase the impact and the reach of many programs. Thirdly, we want to ensure that the provision of content meets the current learning needs of the local community in regions across the world, and is also reflective of the new understandings and research about teaching and learning, some of which I've just mentioned about the US. Finally, our objective is to encourage communities of practice, because we know that this is what will ensure sustainability and a long-term focus on excellence in the sector. So since the program was founded in 2009, we have sustained teacher professional development to more than 20,000 teachers across the globe. And they in turn have inspired and impacted over 1 million students across 249 different locations globally. Looking specifically at EMEA, just last year, we funded 29 universities and non-profit organizations across the 3 regions in 21 different countries. And together, all of those initiatives reached 12,000 school teachers, who in turn impacted on 40,000 students. To get a flavor of some of those projects from 2015, you can go on to the website cs4hs.com/current programs, and if you click on any of the links on the countries or the regions, you'll get more information about the projects that were funded last year, and you'll also get an insight into the variety of projects and work that is going on in the field across the region. So some key information about the application, just in case you're not aware at this point. So first of all, the funding that's available is up to $15,000. However, additional funding can be made available for projects with regional reach and the potential to scale nationally. The closing date, for those of you who aren't aware, is the 15th of February this year at midnight, and that's Greenwich Mean Time. So ensure that you get your application into us before then. To apply for a CS4HS award, there are some eligibility criteria, and we'd ensure that you check these out before you submit your application to make sure that you are in fact eligible to apply for an award. So first of all, your proposal must contain a plan for a year-round community of practice that will sustain the professional development that you want to carry out and also help with the greater advocacy for computer science in your region. You must be affiliated with a university, technical college, or another third-level institute, or an officially registered non-profit organisation. Thirdly, your project must develop school teachers' or students' understanding of computer science and contain computer science content that will be relevant in the classroom. So the focus is very much on the professional development of the teacher in order to promote students' understanding in the classroom. The project must be in the form of either a teacher workshop, a teacher and student workshop, an online course, for example, a MOOC, or a teacher resource project, such as a textbook or an online resource that you want to use to promote the teaching of computer science in your area. Finally, if you are a previous applicant, this does not make you ineligible to apply. In fact, we encourage you to apply if you are a previous applicant, just so long as you're adding a new dimension to a former project or launching a brand new computer science project. You can also have a look at our FAQs on the website, cs4hs.com/FAQ, in case you've got some further questions around the eligibility. So I'm going to move on to talking about tips for writing a competitive proposal and to call out 3 key areas in the application form that we would like you to pay particular attention to when you're writing your application form. So I'm going to move on to that now. First of all, some general tips for writing a competitive application. Firstly, ensure that your project contains computer science content. So think about the slide I showed at the beginning, where computer science is really about focusing on creating with technology rather than consuming it. So ensure that the computer science content is built into your project and is relevant to the students and teachers who will be part of your professional development project. Your project should create materials that can be brought directly back into the classroom or used elsewhere by anyone, like an open source resource, or it might be the adapting of existing materials. For example, in some countries who do not have computer science as part of their curriculum, they may want to look to countries like the UK or the US, where there are certain standards around teaching computer science, and adapt those for their local context. The project ideally should have some sort of regional reach, and if you had the potential to scale nationally or even internationally, that would be fantastic to try and build into your proposal. A proposal should show careful budget considerations throughout and a clear breakdown of how the funding will be used. So by this we mean that we don't want the budget to be heavily weighed in one area versus another. For example, a budget that's dominated by expense for equipment. The budget should be really focused on maximizing the reach and the impact of the project and the delivering the professional development to the teachers, to the end users. A project should provide some sort of a hands-on experience and include activities for the teachers that are interactive and allow them to really engage with computer science themselves. So really experiential learning is what we're looking for here. There should be follow-up activity, and there are some questions around how you're going to measure and follow up with your participants, and continued learning for them beyond an initial workshop or series of workshops that you'll offer. Finally, your project should contain plans to develop or support a community of practice. And for this aspect of your proposal, it could be that you're just going to liaise or partner with an existing community of practice, but it should show some sort of plans around how you're going to do that and how it will impact on your participants. And I will go into some of these in a bit more detail now, because I'm going to call out some key questions in the application form that we'd like you to pay particular attention to as you're filling out your form. First of all, the objectives of the project, then the communities of practice aspect, and finally the evaluation of your project. So firstly, looking at the objectives. So I've listed out the questions from the application form that relate specifically to the objectives. And at the end, I'm going to share a link with you where you can access a copy of the questions for the application form so that you can prepare and practice your responses before you fill out the form online. So in terms of the objectives, it's got to be very clear that you really understand what it is that you're trying to achieve with the project, what type of project you're trying to fund, particularly focusing on the computer science content that you will be addressing in the project, and the pedagogical strategies that you're going to use with the teachers and that you're going to encourage them to use in turn in the classroom with their students. Finally, you should present a very strong rationale for why your target audience needs the content in this particular format. And so this is the chance for you to really describe to us the landscape of your country or your particular region and what it is that is most needed for the teachers in your area, because we know that you're the people who are fully aware of and understand the needs of your local teachers. So this is where we want you to really explain that to us and present the rationale for why you're taking this particular teaching and pedagogical approach and why this CS content will be relevant in the schools in your area. Looking then at the communities of practice questions. So there are 4 questions in the application form that you'll have to answer about your community of practice. So first of all, we'd like you to describe the format of your community of practice. And this could be the format of having peer-to-peer professional development and ongoing support, both face-to-face and online after workshops. We'd also like you to explain to us what your plans are for keeping participants engaged in the community for the school year or for the duration of the project. For example, if that is to happen online, how are you going to ensure that that continues? We'd also ask that you show us what percentage of your requested funds will be allocated to the community of practice, with a minimum requirement of 10% being allocated. And finally, we'll ask you to measure the outcomes of your community of practice or propose how you will measure them. And this might be in terms of how you measure teachers' abilities to then go and adopt new skills and content for the classroom, or it could be a range of approaches. We'll be looking at this aspect of the application in much more detail during next week's Hangout on Air, where we're going to just focus solely on communities of practice. And I'm delighted to say that we've got some guest panelists who will take part in next week's Hangout on Air, who have lots of experience of communities of practice and have done research in the area, and they'll be able to share some further insights for these questions to help you prepare. And finally, the third area that's really critical for your application form is the questions around evaluation. So these are around how you'll measure the outcomes and the impact of the project on the teachers and also on their students. We'll also ask you about the frequency of your evaluation and how often you intend to connect with your participants to measure the continued outcomes and impact of your project. And we'd also like you to consider the primary and the secondary beneficiaries. So your primary beneficiaries perhaps maybe the teachers, and the secondary beneficiaries are the students in the classroom. So to consider all of those in your evaluation answers. So the questions specifically around these are asking you how you'll measure the success of your project, letting us know who exactly the project will impact, and also calling out just how many teachers and students you expect to be impacted by the project. And we know at this point it'll just be an estimate, but it'll give us a sense in terms of the scale of your project and the intended reach of the project. So at this point, I'd like to just remind anybody tuned in live that you can post a question at any time, and we'll try and get to it before the end. At the moment, I can't see any questions, so but don't be afraid to just pop one into the question and answer box, and I'll try and get to it. Also, if you're watching the recording of this, feel free to send a question at any time to the Computer Science for High School team, CS4HS@google.com, and one of us will pick up your question and try to respond as best we can. So just a reminder of those 3 key areas for your application form. And if you can focus on these, you know, there's no doubt that you'll have some sort of a strong competitive proposal to submit. So the objectives of the overall project, the communities of practice plan that you're going to build into your project, and then the evaluation. The links that are up on the slide now are where you can go to click on and download a copy of the application form questions for your region. They're slightly different for each of the 3 regions, so just make sure you get the right ones. And this is to help you prepare for the answers that you're going to submit on the online form eventually before the 15th of February. So if you're still trying to come up with the idea or still brainstorming what exactly your professional development project is going to look like, one page on the website I just want to flag at the moment is on cs4hs.com/resources. Contains lots of material to help you get started with your application, or even resources that you might want to use when you're running your project, and most importantly, to help you connect with other awardees globally. So the G+ community is a great source of information. All our past awardees are connected on that, and you can post a question there at any time and get some information and answers from experienced practitioners there. And as I mentioned, our Hangout on Air series will continue next week. So on the 28th of January at 2:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we're going to focus specifically on the communities of practice element of our application form. Our guest panelists, I'm thrilled to say, are Simon Humphreys and Sue Sentons, who work with the Computing at School organisation in the UK. And they have done fantastic work there on developing a community of practice which is thriving and which is really supporting computer science teachers across the UK in the classroom on a daily basis. So we'll have some questions to ask Sue and Simon next week and really delve into the importance of communities of practice for computer science professional development for teachers. My colleagues in the US are also running a Hangout on Air series, and you can access any of those through joining the G+ community at any stage. I'll put the link up at the end. So I don't think we have any questions from any of our viewers or any of our audience today. So I just want to finish off by saying thank you for joining us. Remember to apply before the 15th of February, midnight Greenwich Mean Time, at the cs4hs.com/application. And you can join in the conversation at any time on the Google Plus community and connect with our inspiring CS educators worldwide. And so thanks to everybody for joining us, and we look forward to receiving your applications and reviewing them.